How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for February 17th through February 24th of 2020. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. A few announcements real quick before we actually get started with the horoscope. One thing, I'm actually going to be raising all of my prices for my readings here in a couple weeks, and I'm actually going to be putting up a sale from this Monday till this Friday, the 19th, for 25% off all my readings. So if you guys have been interested in getting a reading, or if you've been wanting to still get a 2020 reading year, or 2020 reading for the year ahead, this is a really good opportunity because I'm actually not going to be offering those past March. So if you guys have been wanting to get a reading, this is a really good opportunity. I'm putting 25% off for the rest of the week. Next thing is I'm actually going to be putting out monthly horoscopes next month too. I know I haven't done those in a while. It's a big time commitment. Monthly horoscopes take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to write, record, edit, upload. It's a lot of work. So I haven't had that availability, and I'm going to be doing that starting next month. However, they're going to be a little bit different, so I just wanted to give you guys the heads up, and I want you guys' feedback on if you like it. Like on this video, I'm doing something different with the lighting, with the editing. Let me know if you guys like the differences that you see. As well, the next announcement I have is I'm starting to do a lot more different content. I don't know if you guys saw that video I put out about the astrology apps. Not all of it's going to be geared like that, but I do want to put out a lot of different content. I have a lot of personal ideas that I'm going to be putting out there. However, if you guys have any ideas of something specific you want me to shoot, and yes, I am going to be doing a video about how to read a birth chart on a really basic synopsis so you guys can kind of understand what you're looking at a little bit better. I am going to be doing one of those videos. I know a lot of people have been requesting that, and later on this year I will eventually be putting out some courses and classes. However, if you guys have any video ideas, some one-off things that you want me to do, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to take a look at it. And now that we have those announcements out of the way, again, I just want to thank you guys for being here with me. I really do love and appreciate all of you guys. I almost have, I think, I've over 17,000 subscribers now. Kind of a lot of you guys came on here in the not too recent past, and I just want to thank you for joining us here. So anyway, I know I'm talking a lot for this weekly horoscope, but there's a lot to say because this week's highlights, we got Mercury stationing retrograde this week, and you know, we kind of just have to brace the storm. There's no real going through it, or there's no real going around it. We kind of have to go through it. I don't think this Mercury retrograde is going to be as bad as we all think it might be. I do think this one's going to be a little bit easier, and I talked a lot about that in the Mercury retrograde video I did. However, our next highlight that we've got going on this week is the Sun enters Pisces. And you know, what's nice about when the Sun enters Pisces, things kind of calm down because the Sun is going from that mixture of changing the season from winter into spring. So we have a lot more things to look forward to, and I think the Sun going into Pisces is kind of mixing that energy up and kind of really starting to transition the energy. Next highlight we got going on, of course, is Jupiter sextiling Neptune this week. I think that's going to just be weird. I think supportive, but weird. We'll talk more about that as we go along. And also this week, we've got the new moon in Pisces. And so it's kind of like right as we have the Sun enter Pisces, this new moon in Pisces kind of happens. And again, I think just to kind of hit on what we talked about just a second ago with the Sun going into Pisces, changing the seasons, going into spring, this new moon's kind of setting up that foundation for like, hey, what does need to change? And how are we going to go about making those changes? And then, of course, the last highlight that we have is Venus squaring Jupiter this week. And, you know, I think this one's going to be a little bit tough, but I think this is just going to be more of kind of like, you know, kind of getting our socks wet. It's just not going to be fun to walk in as we go through it. But there's a lot to go over this week. There's actually a lot going on. So let's go ahead and jump into the horoscope. So starting off today on Monday, we do have Mercury stationing retrograde in Pisces. Now, it's going to be retrograde for the next couple of weeks. Mercury retrogrades are a time to reflect, review, rethink things. But it's kind of about rethinking your imagination, rethinking the way that you visualize things. Mercury in Pisces explains things very, not so, you know, detailed or analytical, but more expressive, more imaginative. And as Mercury stations retrograde, is this a time that we need to kind of rethink our vision? Is this kind of a time where we have to revisionize things that we, you know, kind of expected to look one way, but may not look that way? And I talk more about that in that video. I'm sure you guys have watched it by now, but also on Monday, we do have the moon making that square to Neptune and trining Venus while it's in Sagittarius. And I think while the moon's squaring Neptune, it's kind of like, while the moon's in Sag, we're wanting to expand, we're wanting to discover, explore, have fun. And as it squares Neptune, it's kind of like your friend tells you, hey, this party's going to be great, and you get to the party and it kind of sucks. But the good news is the moon is going to be trining Venus, so this is going to put at least some excitement and some attraction into it. The moon squaring Neptune kind of puts a damp on what the idea of it is, but that doesn't mean you still can't have fun. And then as we get into Tuesday on the 18th, that's when we just have the moon enter Capricorn, and it's actually going to conjoin Mars. Note to you guys, Mars is going to be in Capricorn for the next 6 weeks. And every single time the moon goes through Capricorn, it's going to be hitting the Mars, Mars, the South Node, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. Every time the moon goes into Capricorn, shit's gonna get really serious. And now that Mars is in Capricorn now, it's time to get serious. This is amplifying and energizing all of the stuff in Capricorn. And this is, depending on your life experience at the moment, either about tearing, old structures and old ways of doing things down, or really starting to build up a new foundation somewhere. And so as the moon goes into Capricorn on Tuesday and conjoins Mars, this is kind of ramping up that ambitiousness to get something done, to accomplish something. And Mars in Capricorn is willing to put in that overtime effort. So just be aware if you're, wanting to be a workaholic or, kind of need to get away from your home life, go work. It's going to be a good time to do it. It's going to be very energized. But then as we go into Wednesday on the 19th, that's when we have the sun going into Pisces. And of course, sun transitions, the sun moving into a new sign. It's not really ever the biggest deal, but the sun puts a backdrop onto things. And as the sun's now in Pisces, we're finally getting away from that Capricorn energy that we just spent the past 60 days dealing with. This is really about going hey, what needs to change? How do I need to get comfortable for right now? While the sun's in Pisces, you're not setting up for the long haul of winter. You're starting to tear down, or you're starting to finally get through the end of your winter supply that you saved up for. As the sun enters Pisces, this is a lot more loose, it's a lot more enjoyable and more relaxed than as the sun's been in the two Saturn-ruled signs of Capricorn and Aquarius for the past 60 days. This gives us an ability, or this gives us, a time and an opportunity to really kind of loosen up, relax, kind of go hey, where do I need to change? What is changing around me? And what does that mean for me? Pisces has a lot to do about environment and, how things are affected by the environment. And as the sun's in Pisces, what about your environment's different, and what about you are different because of your environment? But then also on Wednesday, the moon is going to conjoin Jupiter and square Venus. So this looks a little weird because as the moon's in Capricorn, kind of wanting to be not having to be overwhelmingly emotional, being able to go hey, now that I'm feeling a certain way, where can I implement these feelings? Where can I structure them in a way that makes sense for me? Where can I put levels to this shit? And as the moon kind of conjoins Jupiter, it's kind of hey, this system works for right now. It's not the best thing ever, but here's a positive way that we can look at things. Here's a positive spin for this. I think the only issue is while the moon is conjoining Jupiter, it's going to eventually square Venus. And Venus in Aries, it might not be that might not be her taste. She doesn't really like Capricorn stuff. Venus in Aries likes, Capricorn stuff is like a Toyota Corolla that, basic, economy version, it's gray, it's boring. That's Capricorn car. It gets good gas mileage. It's reliable. It's cheap. But Venus in Aries wants the nice hot rod. And that's not really, with the moon in Capricorn, conjoining Jupiter, it's kind of hey, we have this plan. We have this idea that can work. And Venus in Aries is going to be that's not really my taste. And so that's up to you to decide whether it's worth fighting for that expensive sports car or if you're just going to be able to settle for whatever the Capricorn option of it is. But then we go into Thursday, and that's when we have Jupiter sextiling Neptune. Now, this is one of those bigger transits. Jupiter's kind of lending out that sextiling hand to Neptune, and while Neptune's in Pisces, to sum that up in one sentence, kind of blurring the lines and distorting everything. I don't know if you guys know about deep fried memes, but Neptune in Pisces is making everything a deep fried meme. And Jupiter in Capricorn sextiling Neptune is kind of giving us this little breath of reality. Jupiter in Capricorn is kind of hey, while everything's not, what it's cracked up to be, here's something that's also going decently okay, and this is good though. It's kind of like, it's not the best thing ever, but it's something that we can look forward to. And Jupiter sextiling Neptune kind of brings a little bit of that determination and that ambitiousness to what Neptune in Pisces is kind of making us look at. And also on Thursday, the moon is going to conjoin Saturn and move into Aquarius right after that. And as the moon conjoins Saturn, this is when we get a little bit serious. This is when we get a little bit, streamlined. This is where we get a little bit more, tight. And the moon conjoining Saturn in Capricorn after it just went through Mars, the South Node, Jupiter, Pluto. Like at this point, the moon is very familiar with what Saturn's trying to do. And at this point, while the moon conjoins Saturn, this is just about taking things seriously. And this is just about seeing things through this realistic lens. I think these few days with the moon in Capricorn are going to be a little bit more intense than normal, simply because Mars is now there. But this, while the moon kind of meets up with Saturn here, this is where it's kind of like, mano y mano, eye to eye, like kind of being able to respect your enemy in a sense. And as the moon moves into Aquarius, it kind of goes from this theme of, hey, we need to be serious, to once we take that seriousness, once we apply that, then we can kind of be able to open up to different ideas. Then we can kind of have a little bit more creativity. Then we'll be able to see things through a different perspective as the moon enters Aquarius. But also on Thursday, we do have Mars trining Uranus, which is probably the weirdest. I didn't make this a highlight this week because it's just so off track with everything else, as Uranus is in Taurus, and innovation, freedom, liberation, and how we stabilize ourselves, find security, find like little physical tangible items. I think Mars in Capricorn, I think you're going to see this on a more of a mundane level, but on a personal level with Mars in Capricorn, helping us be ambitious, helping us work towards our goals, and really kind of be I don't even know how to describe it. Really helping us be, extremely motivated and hardworking and serious and committed to this stuff. As Mars trines Uranus, this is going to be kind of innovative ways to do this. Hard work doesn't always look like hard work. Hard work looks like smart work sometimes, and kind of putting in the numbers and doing the math. And as Mars trines Uranus, this is just going to be an innovative time to really look at how you use your energy. But then we get into Friday, and this is where things kind of start slowing down. The moon actually makes a sextile to Venus on Friday while it's in Aquarius. Not a big deal. The moon's in Aquarius, being able to see things through a different perspective. It catches Venus in Aries' eye going, hey, I want that. But like, how can I get it to me? How can I go over there? How can I bring something to me when usually it just comes to me? That's Venus and Aries' problem. And so as the moon's in Aquarius, this also might be a helpful time to be able to see a different perspective of how to attract things, of how to get things to come to you that normally do come to you but aren't at the moment, or something like that. But Friday's not really that big of a deal. Only thing is my reading sale ends on Friday, so make sure you book a reading by Friday if you want to. And Saturday on February 22nd, literally like nothing happens. Like the moon's going to be in the later degrees of Aries. That's kind of, the later degrees of Aquarius, and that's kind of it. Nothing really happens on Saturday, but as we go into Sunday, that's when the moon enters Pisces. The new moon in Pisces happens, and Venus squares Jupiter. So this is kind of a lot going on. As we have this new moon in Pisces, the new moon's about calming things down, kind of leveling things out, going, hey, when we see things from, when two people are seeing things from the same perspective, there's a shared experience. And that's what like having the sun and the moon in the same sign, having a new moon is. It's kind of like when two people can focus on the same problem and kind of go like, hey, how do we address this? How do we start something anew here? And as the new moon in Pisces happens, this is also going to be a really good time to explore Jupiterian ideas. Like, where are we going? What are we building? I think it's really funny if you look at this week, everything is in Pisces and Capricorn. So this has a lot to do with our ideas, our beliefs, what we're dreaming, what we're envisioning, and, what we think is, what we think we're capable of doing, and all of this Capricorn stuff of actually doing it. This can also look like being completely lost in the sauce and totally having, shit fall on you. But, as the new moon in Pisces kind of happens, I think this is just going to be a time to really open up your mind, really open up your perspective. Be open to change and be willing to change. This is going to be a really good time to do changes because we have Mercury in retrograde right now. Mars is in Capricorn wanting to get something done. If you need to change, this is a really good opportunity to make some changes. And as Venus squares Jupiter, this is kind of like Venus in Aries again, kind of saying, hey, this is what I want to pursue. This is what I want to go after. And Jupiter in Capricorn's kind of saying no. Jupiter in Capricorn's kind of going like, you know, we can't want this and want this at the same time. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be this way forever, but that just means right now. And Jupiter in Capricorn's and Venus in Aries squaring Jupiter is a time to kind of go like, hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Pick one. But then we go into Monday and the moon conjoins Neptune and just leaves us utterly confused about life and everything else. Just kidding. Well, it kind of does. But as the moon conjoins Neptune, what are you gonna do? You might as well just experience it, feel things out, play with your imagination. But also, my advice would be while Jupiter's like sextiling Neptune this week and the moon's gonna be like sextiling Jupiter within that, how can you see your dreams, your visions a little bit more realistically, and how can you ground those ideas a little bit more? This isn't gonna, while there's a lot of Pisces stuff going on, there's a lot of Capricorn stuff going on too. So there's a really healthy mix between dreams and imagination versus realism and things that can actually happen. So I think you guys should have fun with that this week. And that's how we go into next week. And next week, we have Mars conjoining the South Node next week and Mercury Cazimi already next week, but that's kind of like more towards the end. Next week's going to be really weird. As we go through this Mercury retrograde and Mars conjoins the South Node, this is more releasing stuff, more shit that we've already been doing now for a while. So it's just going to be painted, or it's just going to have a different texture this time. But with that being said, I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.